Welcome back to Project Independence in You and Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host Otto Los, and we are now in the Talk of the Town hour with Christina Liu, who is a radio show producer, as I mentioned before, pulls these shows together every week. I mean, the guests are always, I don't want to say they get better and better, but they're all great. And, the hour goes by and you have, over break, we just had another great question for the guests. So I'm sure they'll be back. So much great information. It's just amazing how people are so informed. I mean, Steve's been in the business for so long and just knows the ins and outs, and it's just great. It's really good to get these guests. You just kudos Christina and Chris Kelly, who's more focused with the younger population too, so informed. And I do hope that he comes to our technology for the Terrified workshop. Great to have him here.
That's right. No, it was really, a wonderful and informative, and it was a segment that obviously can relate, and no matter what the age is, it's something that you could really, relate to. All of us, either know someone or have been affected by, substance abuse in some way. So
mental health, substance abuse.
Yeah, well, and that's what, I said all the time during this pandemic, my concern always really was, of course, obviously getting sick with COVID was, but it's the mental health impact of all of this and just really how it affected people and continues to affect people. I see aftershocks all the time from everything that went on. And it was just so important. I think they come across too. It's important to note they're not coming at you from a judgmental point of view either, that they really, I thought did a great job, because I think a lot of people are hesitant to reach out because they don't want to be judged, or they don't want to, if you're a family member, they don't want to rat the family member out. There's so many different dynamics that go on when people really could get so much help and benefits. And it's an amazing organization. And that's my favorite part, is that Long Island, and in this area, North Hempstead region even, it's just so rich with so many resources. And I think
we kind of ran out of time near the end. We did not we did run out of time. And one of the big things is, which we could have gotten into a lot deeper, is how do you kick this off? How do you ask for help? And typically he said that 65% of the people who contact them are family members of the person who has the problem. Typically, the person who has the problem is in denial until they really hit rock bottom, and maybe then they're not capable of being able to do what they have to do to get the help. So if there are family members out there who are listening, you could be the family member who's over 60 for somebody who's younger. It doesn't have to be, in our case, we talk about seniors, but seniors can help the younger people with trying to activate help through an organization like that. And I think they said that they have a lot of information on how to get it started and how to approach.
Right. Think about it. A lot of these things start with a family intervention, and I think,
how do you do that?
And that's what's so important, is getting the resources and how about, I can think of so many situations of people I've known, that it's, the families were the ones that were just so affected by it,
right.
And not knowing where to turn or how to go about it, and it's and the years just go on and go on and go on, that it gets very hard to undo these things. But I think it's just so important to reach out to an organization like AlikedHead. And I just want to give the phone number to contact them in Nassau is 516-747-2606. We'll make sure that's put up if you're watching the video at the end of the video as well. But just a great organization.
Right.
And
one point that I do want to make is that, there are times where you live with someone or someone, or that is not, the person is not seeking help, right? They're just not at the point where they're in denial. They're not going to seek help. They're not going to change. but as a family member are still suffering, you can still reach out to get help and learn how to live with the person, set boundaries, get the support you need for being, a family member of someone who's, going through this. So it's not just about.
It's so important, Beck. That's such a good, because I think that a lot of times is even more, beneficial for you to do, because the bottom line is, unfortunately, we all wish, we could wave a wand and fix the person who's struggling, with these issues, but a lot of it really, has to be, and we say it all the time, you can only control yourself. I mean, like you're talking to someone who wants to, make sure everything is in, so it's a very hard realization that a lot of times you have to say, all right, how do I cope with this? I can't change what's going on, but how am I going to? And you're so right, Rebecca, in putting these, it's really a lot of boundaries and whatnot. It's hard. It's a very difficult.
It's very hard.
Well, the person who's suffering, if you will, and that's the right word, they are suffering.
Yeah.
And the impact on everybody around them is unbelievable. You have to worry about them stealing, which they do, especially when they get into heavy drugs and need money to buy the drugs. The stealing is a big thing. Anger, they sometimes, it's not like having a big jolly old party when they get under the influence of whatever. They get angry, they get irrational, they are not thinking like the people that they really are. And those are difficult things to handle as a family member. There's no quick cure, but it is kind of important to know that you're not the first one on the planet that's gone through this. And you don't have to be ashamed of it. It's you need guidance, you need help, and you need guidance in helping that person. None of us will, when you go to high school or grammar school, they don't teach you how to handle this. They don't. It's not in the cards. And it only comes through hard experience, unfortunately. But you can take the benefit of other people who've gone through the hard experience, and they can guide you and they can help you. But you have to be willing to recognize what was the enabler was the word. Don't be an enabler, which is very easy to do.
It's the easy way. I mean, listen.
Well, it takes time to really realize
to break that.
This is really a problem. You
have to understand what you're doing is not helping the person. It's not making it easier in the long run. But Otto, so much of what you're saying, I feel like I remember we talked about a couple of weeks ago, control, right? We can't control the person. We can only manage us. We can manage ourselves. We can, figure out how to help them, definitely, but we have to kind of manage. And if, reaching out to an organization to figure out how to manage it, if you take that word control, because you'll never control that situation.
No, it's so important to just get information. These things are not something that you could certainly do overnight. I think about family dynamics, and it's a very complicated situation. But I think the initial reaching out, as we said, getting information. You can understand, and Otto, like you said, knowing that you're not alone. And that other people are going through it, and kind of what they've done. When I was in social work school, I took a class on substance abuse, and we had to go to an AA meeting and an Al-Anon meeting. And they were, the Al-Anon was just so, blew your mind, because you really, so as we said, it's the families that are affected by these things are so great, so to see kind of both sides of the person and the family is just important. And I just think get resources, and especially if someone that's struggling, just to have this, and how to deal with it is really important. So
I've actually gone to those meetings also, frankly, not for myself, but for people, and it's interesting at the there are people that really they have an addiction, and it's a sickness and it's a problem, and I give an A+ to people who have that problem, who recognize it, and who've been fighting it, doesn't go away. It's with you forever. You have an addictive personality, and some people get addicted to things a lot easier than others. Um, it's a fact, really. It's hard. I've witnessed it many times, and you know,
Well, I think
what
anyone, out there that is listening can certainly relate in one way or another. So, great interview. We'll certainly have them back on again because I think there's such great information. It's a really great
Right.
partnership, with the Town of North Hempstead and LICAD. So, great job, guys. And then next week, we have on Mary Coyle, who is the Senior Director of Senior Services over at EAC Network. And I know we've mentioned in the past, she is actually in charge of all of our social workers that we subcontract with through Project Independence and EAC, their partnership. And Christine Weber will also be on with her, and she oversees the in-home respite service program. So EAC provides amazing things, not just our social workers. They do Meals on Wheels, they do respite, they have a host more of services. So we'll find out all about them because we're showcasing another amazing organization in our community, which is really just fun to do and important. So that is next week. I encourage everyone to check that out. And then coming up, I just want to always remind people what is, because we are fully booked for April as well. We're just plowing through.
I noticed that. Yes.
And so we have March 11th, we have Ron Fatula, who is an elder law attorney. He's going to be on discussing what you need to know now, which is great because there's so many different changes going on in elder law. So it's good to get a little refresher on that. We have on the following week, Seniors Helping Seniors in Home Care Services. Then we have Importance of Sleep is a topic. And then in April, we're going to have Spring Cleaning and Downsizing, which is actually going to be fun because we're having the fabulous Barbara Feldman on, who's been on a lot of times talking about that. And she's actually going to play, it's going to be kind of like a game, in her interview. So we'll be sitting there, the three of us, and we could record, we'll get points, for different questions that she brings up and stuff. So be prepared to be fully honest, everyone.
It would become a game show.
Yeah, so it's interesting because it's a fun way to kind of get a lot of these tips and tricks. She had brought it up to me, and I thought that was a great idea.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm certainly, spring cleaning and downsizing is my ongoing cycle of life.
It's a quest. It's so amazing because I'm doing so much in my house.
Yeah, me too.
My being kind of a almost 100% empty nester now, and throwing out stuff, and what I find I'm doing is I'm actually making one room, the attic garage combined, and I'm storing things in there. And I think the key is if you're not throwing out a lot of stuff, it's still in your house. I'm just putting it out there.
Have you been talking to my husband, Rebecca?
Well, really, before you put it in the room, you should take the time to cull it out.
Yeah, I should. That's a good thing.
Well, I'm doing, it's something that, that's why I love having Barbara on because I really walk away and I'm always, taking tips and I really keep that with me because, I'm definitely a sentimental person. I've said this numerous times on the show. And I love to hold on to things. I'm a keepsaker. I'm very attached to all kinds of things.
We wouldn't know that about you.
The problem is there's too many things I'm attached to. But it's you think about, and as I've gotten older, and obviously I've accumulated more stuff, and I'm just I'm just done with it. I've gotten better, being it's time. It's time to get rid of it because that's where right now you guys don't know the chaos that's going on behind me, in redoing our living room. But there was things that I was just it's time to shed these, and you don't see them. It's so bizarre. It's there's so many things I have that I never look at, I never do anything with, but I just need to know they're here somewhere. So it's a process that I think we're all, and spring is just a really great reason. I always try to kind of just reevaluate things in spring and go through, and it's an ongoing process. I think about that. We all know, that you feel so good when you organize a drawer, but unless you're maintaining it, it just gets like back in the cycle, because I just,
you get the email from the people, was it Esther and
yes, the seniorsafetyadvice.com.
yeah, right. They just came out with their
Yep.
newsletter, and one of the topics is decluttering.
Yeah.
They have a lot of really good stuff on there.
It's an amazing, and I'm so glad, that they became part of our, family, because we had them on the radio show. And I love that because I recruit all these people for our newsletter, so they have an article in there that's really good too. So we'll touch upon that also.
Well, they've been very helpful, by the way. Real Live World, myself and one of my son-in-laws next week is going to install complete. I'm not going to use the name because, Alexa. I don't know if it spells system at this person's house, who we know, family member, 90 years old, has macular degeneration, can't see. So we're going to hook them up, and it's going to be a great experience. But where I'm going with this is that Esther, in particular, I had a fair number of email conversations back and forth with her, and she was quite helpful in
that's so great. I can't wait to hear, how it all went, because I think we all walked away from that interview just blown away. So
yeah. Well, actually, we do have to take a quick break. We're talking with Kristina Liu, the radio show producer for Project Independence in You. This is Talk of the Town, and you're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast, and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to WCWP.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Oh, welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Los. And we are now in the Talk of the Town segment with Kristina Liu, who is the radio show producer. She's filling us in on what's going on around the town. And we're also catching up on the really great guests that we just had. So much to cover. It's like that, just impossible to do it all in an hour. You're like, I'm glad that it was okay to jump around, because you have a thought there and then a thought here. And it's like, oh, what about this? And then you're here.
Well, that's the conversational aspect of things. So it's good too, because it makes people come back, so it's good. But also, we were talking before the break about shows that are coming up. We have on the Right at Home, which is an amazing organization. It's been on a bunch of times. They're going to come on to discuss developing a care plan and how to help resistant seniors accept care, which I think is going to be really informative too. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of golden nuggets in that one. And then we have on almost a panel kind of discussion from a bunch of different organizations. They're going to be discussing finding Alzheimer's and dementia care in our community at any age. And then we're ending April with the Pulse Center for Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy, which is great. We've had them on a bunch of times, and so much information that they have, and it's exciting. So it's good. And then
they're good.
In fun news, speaking about technology, I've been going back and forth because Otto, a couple of weeks ago, had brought up the Drums Alive organization, where it was this exercise class with drumming, for seniors. So I was doing my investigation, tracking it down. So I find Drums Alive, which is kind of the broad organization that has national, little branches throughout. Worldwide, not even national, worldwide. So I reach out, through the woman, and then her, we were going back and forth. So she wants to set up a meeting with me, a Zoom meeting, just to kind of talk about the radio. And I didn't realize, but she's like, well, let's figure out a time. I live in Germany. And I was like, cool, technology is so cool. So we're going to Zoom, sometime next week, just to kind of talk and figure out a date. But I'll be Zooming with Germany. So I thought that would be kind of fun. We will have like our first international guest, I believe, if this all pans out. So,
Now I got a
but
topic
yes,
for you.
me too.
You have this thing that came out about home sustainability workshops.
Hmm.
All right. And it includes a lot of different things where people would go to where? Where would they go for those workshops?
So we're talking about the sustainability. Those are all going to be on Zoom.
Where?
Zoom, via Zoom. They're virtual.
Oh, in Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you must register for those. Otto is referring to the 2022 home sustainability workshops. I like all these things that we're doing, which I like, which I'm hopeful as I stare outside at the white snow on my trees, really are kind of spring related. So it's just something fun to look forward to, and yard care. I was saying to my husband, and we were driving around, I was like, I can't wait to just see like flowers and green grass again. This like monochrome white gray and grayness outside is really not my thing.
But how
But
about having somebody on the show? And
yeah, absolutely, we would love to.
part of that would be, this is my second year I'm going to do it, successful year of growing a few vegetables.
Oh,
I've never, in my life, I've tried to grow tomatoes 1,000 times. Last year's the first time I really got some good tomatoes. And it had to do with where I located the plants. So I would like to learn a little more about some vegetables that grow well on Long Island.
absolutely, I like it.
We once had an arborist on, right? Did it like years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had someone who actually worked over at Clark Gardens.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
I'm sure we could probably get someone from over there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll try and see if they could even come in, during our segment, Talk of the Town segment. But the 3 different workshops that they're having are sustainable yard care. So that's on March 1st, which is that next week? That's next week already. Wow. That's going to be at 6:30 p.m. And that's really about how to make your yard more sustainable by composting, using a rain barrel to save water, creating a wildlife habitat, using different alternatives to pesticides, just applying fertilizer properly. So it's really just kind of everyone, I laugh because I think of my husband because, my husband does, landscaping as his trade in the past. Now he works for a school district, but all of our friends are always calling him, asking him to diagnose the lawn because, everyone's got either some kind of spots or everyone just wants green grass, so it's funny to see all my guy friends, calling my husband like he's like the doctor of the lawn. So that's March 1st. And then on March 15th, there's going to be native plant gardening. And that's these plant gardens which help you to conserve water and reduce pesticides and whatnot. So that's interesting. There's so many little things you can do now that are so beneficial to the environment. And then there's rain gardens. So that's going to be on March 29th. And you're going to learn how to reduce stormwater pollution and flooding and recharge and purify drinking water. It's just amazing how interconnected all of this really is. So once again, these are all via Zoom. You need to register for these programs. So please call 311 or 516-869-6311 to register for those programs, which is
one of the things I've been noticing in the summer in my backyard, and definitely the last 2, because I guess over the pandemic too, there's a lot less pollution, perhaps. I have every bird in my backyard. It is like you just sit in our porch, and it's like a bird sanctuary. I
bought my dad like a little like bird identifying book because he was very entertained when he would sit outside and see the different birds in the backyard. So it's nice. I know, I love that because I always say like, I feel like a Disney princess. Like I'm just gonna walk out and birds are gonna
Disney princess.
Okay, here's the question then. I wound up. We have on our lawn, which is now covered with a little snow. There's a circle that's about 2 feet by 2 feet around in a circle, and it's all bird feathers. And I cannot figure out. It's almost like there was like a ritual done by the birds with the circle. But I have a feeling that I don't know how that got there. And I actually took a picture of it, which I was going to send out to find out. And I'm thinking, did a squirrel get a hold of a bird, or what?
Is there, maybe there was a nest? Was there some kind of nest nearby?
No, it's in the middle of the lawn. There's no tree above it, and there's just like a circle of uh,
Feathers.
feathers, right?
Well, Otto, you're gonna have to get to the bottom of that
Yeah.
and
I
bring the
am.
hot tip back.
Yeah, it's got me.
That's
A couple of weeks ago, I was driving to work and I saw this very unusual cloud formation. It was very, very cloudy, like almost you couldn't see the sky, except for this huge circle. It was just this big open circle. It was bizarre. I took pictures of it and I sent it to, is it Rich Hoffman he does the weather news on Facebook.
Yep, Rich Hoffman, yep.
So I sent it to him and I said, what is this? I was like, it was just so, I have pictures on my phone. I'll send it to you.
Beck, you'll have to send them to me.
He responded.
I mean, guys, it's either the weather or, the aliens are coming. I don't know.
He responded to me immediately. So he's very good with, that kind of stuff. So maybe give a shout out. He responded to me and explained that it was I guess there's something to do with the frost, and that might come from a plane, and it just kind of opens up something like that. I don't know. I was just like so glad he responded. I don't even know what he wrote, but there is an explanation, though. It is rare, but
wow.
It's just unbelievable. So maybe you can reach out to him, or he could hook you up with one of his.
That's right. Well, there you go. Check out with Rich Hoffman. I also in behind the scenes in the Project Independence world, at one of our advisory committee meetings, and that's what I wanted. We're always listening to whatever your suggestions are or the questions you have, and I just want people out there to know that what we discuss doesn't just go in the garbage can. We really try and figure out ways or answers to accommodate what's going on. So they had one of the members mentioned the Vial of Life pack, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Vial of Life. It's a little decal you would put on your front door, and then another decal you would put on your refrigerator. And then in a Ziploc bag would be a packet or a piece of paper. There's all different forms, but that just has kind of pertinent medical information in case you are ever, God willing, you're not, but if you are ever in a situation where you can't verbalize these things or can't remember or whatever the reason is, this way the fire department or the police or whoever might be coming in would come, and they would know that you have that and go to the fridge and be able to get that information. So after the advisory committee, I was doing a bunch of research, and I reached out to this organization that sent me the decals. So I have a whole stack of them sitting on a box on my desk. And so I want everyone to know, if you are interested in receiving a Vial of Life, it's a little one sheet now. They've condensed it, which is nice. And then the decals, you can call 311 or 869-6311, and we'll send that out to you. So
I actually have that on my list to bring up as well. And one of the questions about it is, you have the label. Is there something that you would use to put the information in?
Just a Ziploc bag. They just say any kind of clear Ziploc bag. Yeah.
Okay.
And they say that a lot. Sometimes you'll get it or what, but most people have some kind of Ziploc bag situation. And it doesn't have to be in a Ziploc. It could be in anything, frankly. But a lot of people, that's usually because this way it's a clear bag. It's and you have it's labeled and everything. So definitely, it's just great. So I encourage people to do it. It's all kind of in our realm of preparing for any situation. And we had mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the Circle of Support brochure has been fully updated. It is now digital as well, so you could also call and request a copy of that if you don't have it, or if you would like a digital version, you could request that too. So I think it's good, and it all ties into, I think in spring too is a reason to kind of just get everything in order, and it's just a time to do these, to reflect on it, and it's something you can do little by little. It's not an all at once thing, and that's really what's just so beautiful about this Circle of Support. And all this information will also be featured in our next issue of the Pioneer newsletter, which hopefully will come out, sometime mid-March. I've been working on it. We got our first draft. It's looking pretty good, I must say. We have a lot of articles. I had mentioned we have Ron Fatula submitted the 5 essential documents you should have, you know, in terms of planning for your future, which is so important. Our favorites that we touched upon earlier, the Esther and Robin from the SeniorSafetyAdvice.com group, they submit an article on the top 5 Alexa features to help seniors be independent, which is really great because we learned from the show, which I had no idea. And I must say, I was going around that weekend telling everyone I knew, like, do you know all the capability that, you know, the Amazon Alexa has? And I mean, there was like hundreds of features, but this, she narrowed it down to the top 5 that are beneficial for seniors. I also have our fabulous co-host over here, Otto Los, with some just tips from him about getting outside and walking. There's this great graphic that is also with it that is about just kind of staying motivated. I love a tip. I love a tip to stay motivated, to exercise, and just fun things to do. We have a little blurb on mindful eating. As I mentioned, the Circle of Support. Of course, our radio program information is featured in there, and just some updates about transportation program and exercise and highlights that went on within Project Independence, because there's so much information. I mean, really, when I laugh, I was like, this newsletter could be, 20 pages, so I could really get it's very hard to condense it down to not just be like, a bazillion words, because there's so much wonderful stuff going on within our program. And it's exciting too, because a lot of our programs are kind of switching over to being able to be in person again.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Speaking of our advisory committee, March 16th
right.
at 10 a.m. we'll be at Clinton G. Martin Park in the flesh, or you could also join, via Zoom. Because I like this. I really like the hybrid model. I think it's really beneficial because not just for people who might still have concerns about going out to in-person things, but for the person who can't, physically get to different programs can still participate. And I just think, I was just having a conversation with someone in my personal life. I forgot where I was. And I was talking about the advisory committee and just how incredible the amount of seniors that participate via the telephone, and they don't have, the capability of, a laptop or a smartphone or whatever it is. So they call in, and I think it's so nice because you're still able to participate that way, and they certainly are just as vocal as the people that have video capabilities. So it's really great. And I encourage people to check out the advisory. It's really going to be, and especially being in person will be nice. Obviously, we'll figure out some safe ways. We want to keep it, everyone as safe as possible. So if you are interested, please register at 311 or 869-6311 for that program. So all good stuff, everybody.
Kristina, whatever happened with, I can't remember her name, and I think I'm friends with her on Facebook, the Flirting Lady.
Yes, her name was Barbara also.
Fran?
She was fun.
No, wasn't it Fran something?
Yeah.
Fran Green. Thank you, Fran Green.
Yeah, right.
Fran Green.
Yes, yeah. I have to reach. We had Fran on a couple of years back, but she's always great. So
yeah, it would be good to hear her kind of like how she adapted her advice because with the pandemic, and because I think that dating online really blossomed during that period in some respects. It'd be interesting to hear, her update at some point.
Absolutely. So, and anyone ever has any topics or guest suggestions, I mean, that's some of the best shows we've had are people that, have, in your personal life. You could always just literally call 311 and say, I want to be connected to Kristina, and, give me your suggestions, because I think those are some of the best guests, and that's a great point. And then just some programs that are coming up within Project Independence are our Blankets of Love group is meeting at Clinton G. Martin Park, and that's in person, so that's on Tuesdays. If you are handy, the blankets that the women quilt and crochet, whatever the term is, it's just incredible. And last year they donated something like 175. I mean, it's incredible. I said they could really have their own business. I don't know what they're doing volunteering. They could really, and they're just stunning. And the fact that they go to these amazing causes is just incredible.
Okay,
There's
when
so
we
much more
come
to
back,
cover.
we'll hear more about what's going on with Kristina Lu and Talk of the Town. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Oh, welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Your host, Rebecca Miller, along with co-host Otto Los and Kristina Lu, radio show producer extraordinaire, who pulls this program together every week. What more can I say? It is evident that she's doing a great job because the guests that come on the show. So this is our final segment, which is the Talk of the Town. And we were talking right before break if anybody has any ideas to have a guest on. And Otto, I was thinking, wow, let's get Kristina to be the guest. I mean, you said you were a guest before, but I mean, you do so much crafting and scrapbooking, and that's so great. I mean, there's so many things that you can actually scrapbook that aren't just pictures, like putting things into books and how to organize and how to kind of have a theme.
I love a book. I got like a book for everything. I got a book for tickets, a book for Polaroids, anything that can.
How about that? Plus, how does she manage to do all these things?
How does she manage to do it all? Keep
time
us
management.
on
Yeah,
everything.
But we talk about different, coping. We'll laugh because I tend to just try to keep going, with my own anxieties and stuff that I have to kind of channel it into these different things. And I think that's important. We always said this, especially during the pandemic, Otto. I think about, those times with John, and we were in the thick of it, and we were just trying to think of ways to, like, maintain sanity during, a crazy, uncertain time. And I think that's, I always said to everyone, like, find just something that is interested for you, and I've always been, ever since I was little, I loved, crafting and planning and making things for people. It started, I think about myself as a little tiny girl, and it started when my grandma would watch me, and we would sit there and I remember we would press flowers. And we would make bookmarks with the pressed flowers. And I actually still, this is why, I keep things. I actually still have one of those bookmarks that I'm very thankful to this day I did keep because, my grandma is obviously, like, no longer with us. And so it was just, I remember I would sit there as a little girl and be like, this is so great. Here we are making these things. And listen, there's no greater cure for me to channel my stress. I need to be planning something. This is a trait I get from my mom, Barbara. If we're not planning an event or turning the simplest thing into some kind of event, that's what we like to do that. My husband thinks we're a little crazy, but he's began to understand that, he's like, what are you guys sending back and forth? Because I'm trying to plan my birthday, obviously. And, so it's always, it's in April, so I'm trying to think of, like, weather. I want to have a Yellowstone cowboy-themed kind of birthday.
Of course.
Yellowstone. You've been watching Yellowstone?
I did. I watched it all, baby. It's really. I have a sweatshirt. I bought Jay for Valentine's Day, like whiskey shaped glasses, that have the Yellowstone logo on it. So we're very invested in this.
But that season's over, right?
It is over, but season 5 will be coming, and I recommend 1883 for anyone that was a Yellowstone.
I've watched them all.
1883 is a great show. It's a wonderful show.
Kristina made me watch it. I did. I watched it
great.
all.
His daughter is a tough nut.
Oh yeah.
I like it, but it's awesome. And I could do a whole segment on just all the amount of television and binging I've consumed as well, in the midst of all this. But I'm at this weird standstill because now we're doing all this work in my living room, that I don't have a television in the living room, so I'm just have it in the bedroom. So it's really, slowing down my game of really getting adequate content for you guys.
The process.
There's a lot to be said for streaming a lot of these shows, and like I've been watching Broadchurch, I think it's called.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And we watched 2 nights ago 2 segments, last night 3 segments, and we just started from the first series, and they have 3 of them all together. But it used to be on Netflix, and now it's on PBS, so you can catch up. And but when you watch a show like that, and you watch 2 or 3 or 4 in a row, it's really much better, because when you have to wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever to watch the next episode of some show, you're kind of like, who was this? What did they do?
Yeah, it's true. Listen,
I don't understand something. So I started watching this show, Line of Duty, which is, it was probably like 8 years old, and it's a detective, and they're all about like corruption and, in the police department, and they're all cops. And I started watching it, I think, on Netflix. And then I had to get Peacock. And now to watch the last season, I have to get BritBox. Like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't.
It's funny and this is like, we could do a whole segment on the world of streaming and services, because as I've said before, in this house we have pretty much covered all of our bases on all different streaming services between my mother and I. But I don't understand. And I wish someone could answer that too, because, for example, we had mentioned Yellowstone previously.
Yeah, that happened with Yellowstone,
and
right?
Yellowstone, so, the live
on Paramount
also was on television. But then, so old seasons, though, were on Peacock, because you would think you'd be on Paramount, but Paramount Plus isn't necessarily all the same stuff as Paramount
Now,
Network.
the last season, what's that on?
So season 4?
Yeah,
season 4 is what just finished.
Right. Okay. Because I didn't watch season 4 yet.
I believe it's going to be on Peacock. I could double check. I watched that live, so I'm not sure. I actually
right. Okay. Because I couldn't get it on Peacock. It's just
now
like,
Peacock is fairly new.
I guess I don't know.
NBC, I think.
Yes, it's an NBC related thing, and Paramount is more like CBS.
Yeah, who could we ever get that knows all about all these?
You know what? We'll just have to make Dan talk about it. I feel like if anyone, we'll have to pull our Wizard of Oz out. I feel like
it's so confusing.
Dan is camera shy. He won't come on.
I know.
But
you know who we can have on? My mother, because she's got she's like, oh, you could use this password or that. I'm like, wait, what is going on? I just bought Peacock to watch this show, but now I have to get BritBox for the last season. And I like when it was just like Netflix and HBO Max.
Well, what's funny? A lot of my friends have got rid of their cable. They're like no longer using cable. And my husband laughs at me because my mom and I, we refuse to get rid of cable. I was like, I'm just keeping cable. These other services are great, but sometimes I just want my cable. I want to watch it live. I'm old school, right? It's very hard for me to. You're lucky I'm not putting a VHS tape in, to record things. But it was some, cable is very serious. And forget it, when the cable goes out in this house, between my mom, it's just like the end of the universe. But I also am a very big avid streamer as well, so I like to have both. But it's an interesting management. And, Otto, I think me and you were talking about it last week about just managing the finances of these things. Because it really can add up. Because you hear $5 here, $5 there, but those it adds up, and it's an interesting topic, and I think it's something that we could all manage. But my point is, it's too overwhelming though, because I said to Jay, sometimes we'll sit there and I'll be trying to find something to watch, and I'm like, we have so many options, but I feel like I can't find anything, and I just miss the days of going to Blockbuster and just taking out a DVD and I watched that DVD. I was like Miss Blockbuster. I was devastated when Blockbuster closed down. But it was just, the chase of getting it. I feel like people don't have that. I'd have all my friends. On Tuesdays, I'd be the girl there, getting like the new release, and I'd be like, I scored like the new release, and it was. But now it's like, oh, just put it on the TV. Okay, boom, boom, it's done, and it's over. So it's an interesting kind of change and thing to like manage, certainly. So.
Yeah.
Question, is there a recap anywhere of all the different streaming services that actually are available?
Oh, I'm sure there has to be a list.
Maybe I'll Google.
It's a long list.
Oh yeah, there's so it's crazy. Like the list is
go to
wild.
Dr. Google.
Yeah, that's right, Dr. Google it.
Mr. Google.
But it's an interesting topic, you know. It's certainly something I think all of us can relate to.
Good. I'm glad that I'm not the only one, because I'm like buying the service or taking a free trial, and before I know I'm paying for it, I'm not watching it anymore. It's my show's not on it anymore, and it's like you're in this vortex of how do I get to my show without buying another streaming service that just came up.
That's very true. And I just feel like these new services just keep popping up, you know, because on top of, you know, I love, you know, TV shows, obviously, and movies, but I also love podcasts. And podcasts are great for me right now because I'm like always on the go. So I'm just traveling around, like listening to talk radio, different things. And it's just, but so managing that is crazy.
But you're not being mindful of what you're doing when you're walking around listening.
No, I'm talking about like walking around doing stuff in my house. You know, like I need some kind of distraction. Let's be real. I need full noise to just keep it moving in this house. But yeah, so these are all, you know, interesting things. And if anyone has any tips or tricks on it, it's certainly something to.
We have to look into an interesting person on that, and
that's right.
Because it's confusing. It's confusing for me, and you know, they probably would have a lot more seniors on if it was kind of they knew how to figure it out. I mean, it's a full-time job. It really is. Like you have to keep your passwords.
I know, because I always try to think like, what service am I actually using the most? And I don't really know. I mean, I probably use Netflix a lot. You know,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Netflix is definitely up there. HBO Max.
We have
Amazon
is the only one actually.
Oh, like Amazon Prime. That's good.
But as a result of that, and contributing to PBS, $60 a year, you get a PBS Passport. So all these masterpiece shows and the British mysteries and whatever are available. And the bottom line is, there's really only, like in our case, we put the TV on at 6:30 roughly, and it goes off like 10:30.
That's really good.
And on the weekend, it's not on until nighttime. So there's really not enough hours to watch everything.
Right,
you know?
Right.
Listen, it's part of it is my, you know, own, you know, I laugh with the DVR because I record so much stuff, and I have like this thing, like I need to like clear out like my DVR box. So it gets me like anxious if I have too many shows. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And I sit there and I'm like, and I feel like it's like checking things off my list. I'm like, got it, you know, check. But
it's it's like work. It's like I was joking with my mother, and she's like, "Oh, you should really watch this movie or this one." And I'm like, "I can't. I've got to finish Shameless. I'm only on season 5."
You have to like prioritize all.
And I'm like, "I got to work tonight. I'm sorry. I can't. You know, I can't do anything."
But you know, speaking of technology and cleaning out stuff, in my living room, Saga, you know, we had this case that had DVDs, and when we first moved in, I had obviously narrowed it down. These were like, you know, like just DVDs I couldn't part with. Mind you, haven't used the DVD. My little nieces come over and they just like to look at it because it's like fun to like see like a hard copy of something, because they're in their world, they're not really like used to seeing that. So I'm going through the DVD case and I'm just making like different piles, because I'm also very mindful of the fact that as I get older, you know, like, and children and grandchildren, whatever it might be, or family, whatever, you know, is in the cards. The fact that, like, I want them to see a hard copy of a DVD. You know, I don't want, and there's some that are so touching to me that I can't. So I had she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm prioritizing sections, and then I'm going to narrow it down." But I got rid of an insane amount, and I put in a bag, and I said, and some of them are still in the plastic, fully sealed. So I'm like, what do I do with these DVDs? So I'm in the process, and if anyone has any tips, please let me know of where I can go to kind of sell them or, you know, donate them, whatever.
You can take DVDs and maybe on your own computer,
Mm-hmm.
or there are places you can go to. The ones you want to keep, you can digitize them so that they're either on a thumb drive or on your computer as an electronic file.
Yeah, and I was like thinking, but so many of my services already like have these things. Like,
Right,
we're talking about like iconic, and let's be clear, there's certain things in Christina's repertoire that I refuse to get rid of because I have like the collector's thing. So I have a fancy like Grease, I have a fancy Dirty Dancing, and these are things that were just too part of my childhood that I refuse to ever part with. So I have like a good, of things that I will not be. But I was like, here are things that are sealed. Like, is there anything, plus Jay had some old video games that we're gonna like try and so it's this funny thing because you're stuck in this limbo, and I was like I'm not just gonna throw them away. Obviously I'll donate them, but some of them I was like, where can I sell this? Is there people who want, I don't know. So
Go to
that's what
Dr. Google,
yeah.
and I assure you, you'll find people that buy that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great. They're great. I was like, look, I was like, great mix of DVDs. I was really impressed. It really runs the gamut of all genres.
Like we've gone through generations of stuff. My mother, Bunny's family, whatever, and you say, oh yeah, we could sell that. The problem with all those wonderful thoughts is that they take a lot of work.
Yeah,
they take a lot of time. You have to take pictures. You got to put the thing on the site.
I know, because that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to go to a store and be like, here, I have it in my car. I drive around with it because I'm I just want to go to a store and be like, here.
Well, there was an eBay store. I don't know if it exists anymore, where you actually would give them like what's that? What do they call that? Consignment. Like it's like consignment with eBay. I don't know if that store exists or not anymore.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I think there's a place actually by my house. I know that takes like a bunch of stuff back. So and it's kind of cool because it's like a local mom and pop thing. So I'm hoping that works out. So, but this is just these are things to think of, and I might have to reach out to Barbara Feldman, our downsizing guru, and see if she has any tips because but I have to say it made you feel satisfied. I mean, let's be clear, there's still a bag that I'm not ready to part with. And I have like all my 90210 like complete season like DVDs. Those aren't going anywhere, frankly. So there's things that really shaped who I am today that I refuse to part with. Because I still have some VHS tapes also saved somewhere. But they're like ancient artifacts to me, and I was like, I need to like pass these like fossils down. Because I'm telling you, my nieces, when they come over, they're like, what? It's like saying like, they don't get to see the visual picture of anything. They just see an icon on the TV and, and hit it. So it's an interesting time, to do. But that is what I'm doing. So everyone, if anyone has suggestions, please call 311 and just like let me know.
Yeah.
I want to just remind people, obviously, there's so much going on in Project Independent, both virtual and non-virtual. So you could always just call 311, or if you are, tech savvy and you can check out our website. I've taken ownership and an ability now to be able to update it and add things. So it has a lot of up-to-date information on there with different programs that are coming up. I also recommend that you sign up for our email newsletter that comes out monthly.
Definitely.
Has all kinds of programs that are happening, and the hard copy of The Pioneer. If you are not receiving that, hard copy, and mind you, I just want people to know it only comes out 2 or 3 times a year. So sometimes people call and say, I haven't gotten it. Well, that's because it's only 2 or 3 times a year. Call 311-516-869-6311 for any information on any program.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is the end of another terrific show. Great job, Kristina, getting these guests, and just the talk of the town's always wonderful. Otto, thank you so much. Dan, thank you so much. Our guests, Steve Chasman and Chris Kelly, another great show. Everyone, be safe out there. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.